Hi everyone, I'm Monica Moritsch. I'm with the U.S. Geological Survey, Western Geographic Science Center at Moffett Field, California, and I'm here to talk about being a research ecologist with the government. Briefly, I'll go over the types of ecological research that USGS does. It's not just geology, and it's not just in the USA, although mostly it is. We work on interdisciplinary teams, and we form collaborations with multiple agencies, including NASA, NOAA, Fish and Wildlife Service, and more. Most of the research we do pertains to our mission areas, and so those are core science systems that include surveys and national data acquisition, the mission area of ecosystems, energy and minerals, environmental health, land resources and land change, natural hazards, and water resources. The general role of a research ecologist within USGS is somewhat similar to that of someone at a research university. You collect samples and data, and you can process the samples yourself or pay another USGS lab or university to do it. You can analyze the data yourself and then publish papers, and then go to conferences and presentations, and all of this is quite similar to the university research experience. I would say where we differ is that we're really pushed to do outreach, stakeholder engagement, and make sure that our data is used by other people. We really want to make it easy and accessible for that data to do as much good as possible. And most of our research is applied. So my pathway to becoming a research ecologist, I've done work in a lot of different ecosystems. I went to UC Berkeley for my bachelor's in biology, and there I got into marine biology through an NSF research experience for undergraduates internship, where I studied algal toxins in Puget Sound, and then I did a study abroad program looking at the coral reefs of Australia. My senior year of college, I got an NSF graduate research fellowship and went straight to grad school after finishing my undergrad. So I went to UC Santa Cruz, where I did a master's and a PhD. I did this program where you can earn your master's along the way and not have to start over for the PhD. And I studied sea star wasting disease and rocky intertidal ecology. So I was doing a lot of field work on the coast of California, which was a blast. But I struggled with the data analysis and stats and coding to the point where I thought I was going to quit. I felt like there were just so many different skills to master. In graduate school, you can be a one-person team sometimes, and so it felt rather overwhelming. And what I did to address that was make a bit of a change. I got an internship, which turned into a part-time job with an academic boundary organization. And if you're not familiar, a boundary organization tries to link up science and policy. Basically, they take a lot of the state of the science and translate it into a form that is accessible and understandable to the decision context. There's a lot of applied research and synthesis going on at a boundary organization. And I really liked this setting because it was interdisciplinary. We were solving real world issues, and I really felt like the work we did was received by an audience that was eager to hear it. The other thing that stood out to me about a boundary organization is that they had basically an interdisciplinary support team. They paired up with communication specialists and policy specialists, legal experts, and even software designers. And that all came together to make kind of the science to policy pipeline for every project, which was very cool. And being part of a team, I also no longer felt so stressed and overwhelmed about having to do everything myself, and I could really focus on playing to my strengths, letting everyone else play their role and not worrying about what I wasn't as strong in. So here I really honed my skills in mapping, GIS, and spatial modeling, and I got to study ecosystems of a bunch of different places. We looked at corals in Hawaii, salt marshes of California, and the oceans of the Arctic Circle. I didn't get to go to all these places, but I did get to go to Hawaii, which was pretty cool. I also gained a mentor here that was very encouraging, and probably one of the reasons why I kept going on this path was through her encouragement. Even when I tried something and it didn't work out, she let me know that my efforts were appreciated and that she had confidence that I'd be able to figure out a solution with enough time. So after graduate school, I continued working as an assistant with that boundary organization, Stanford Center for Ocean Solutions, but I knew that I needed something full-time, so I got this mini postdoc with Deakin University in Australia, and they only had 6 months of funding. It was a bit of a unique situation where somebody had left partway through their postdoc, and it was probably too short for a good long-term experience, but it was great for gaining some experience abroad without having to completely rearrange my life and make major immigration decisions. On their timeline, somebody else had already collected the data. They'd gone out and taken a whole bunch of cores and salt marshes, and my job was to evaluate how these different spatial restoration scenarios would contribute to carbon sequestration for Victoria, Australia. So what I got to do was I did GIS pretty much all day, every day at this wonderful GIS lab in the middle of a rural town in Australia. And it was just a really interesting overall experience, both being part of another culture and just having this opportunity to do cool things with GIS. The skills that I gained through that postdoc directly contributed to me getting my current job at USGS, where I now study salt marshes and how sea level rise will shape their carbon sequestration and habitat change. I use many of the same skills: GIS, map making, spatial reasoning. I've gotten quite a bit better at data management and coding. Soon they're going to let us start resuming field work, and I will be able to put those field ecology skills from grad school back into practice. I was actually hesitant to take this job at first. I almost didn't apply because the application heavily mentioned coding skills, but my mentor, she encouraged me that feeling of discomfort I felt was an opportunity for growth and that I should just go for it. And so I applied and I got it. And I've been here about a year now, and I am enjoying it quite a bit. So there are some pros and cons to working with USGS. I'll go through the pros first. Number one, it is top-notch science. You are surrounded by experts in many different fields, and they come together to do very rigorous work. And if you ever have a question on any sort of topic, there's somebody within USGS that you can call up and have a conversation with. Another big pro for me is that you teach only if you want to. The third pro is that outreach and engagement are rewarded and expected, and I'm very happy that everything that I do is going to be used in some way, and that I have to think about that up front and build it into everything that I do. Another nice thing is that USGS has a lot of professional development resources and a budget to support that. And then finally, it's quite easy to collaborate with other Department of Interior agencies. Now for the cons. There is some bureaucracy, as with any government organization. It can be annoying at times, but once you learn to deal with it, it's not so bad. It's not an ideal position for somebody who wants to be a resource manager. We take a step back from making the decisions ourselves. We're more of a support team. So if you want to be the one actually making that management plan, this role is probably not the best long-term solution. Another con to consider is that funding can change quickly within the government. Programs can get defunded, or funding can get reallocated to other priorities. And it can create a bit of a scramble sometimes. In my unit, people know how to deal with this and generally can figure things out. Another thing is that there's lots of grant proposals. You don't necessarily have a fundraising team backing you like you would at a large nonprofit. At least early in your career, you have to write a lot of grant proposals. For some, this doesn't matter to me, but it's not ideal for early career teaching experience. So in terms of practical advice, I'd suggest pay attention to what engages you and what doesn't. What makes time fly or drag? What is worth the struggle? Just pay attention to those things. One big tip is to find a mentor that will help you reach your vision of you and not theirs. My mentor at the Boundary organization really helped just support me in what I wanted to do. The third thing I would say is try lots of things. No experience is ever truly a waste. It will come back and benefit you eventually. So you can leverage those tangentially related things or non-traditional experiences. And I think of it as being a T-shaped person in terms of the topics that you know, where you have a lot of breadth in some different things, and then have deep knowledge in one or two things. Try an internship or collaboration with a government agency if you're interested in eventually working with one. And there is this USGS Pathways internship, which can help you collaborate with USGS as part of your graduate student research and then provide a way for you to become a permanent employee upon graduation. I've put together some resources about these different things that I've mentioned, our mission areas, these internships. There's a live Q&A session that I'll be a part of on August 6th from 1 to 1:30. Feel free to ask me any questions there.